Is Carl Nias, and I decided to do my presentation on ethical behavior. So we're going to start with some introductions. Like I said, my name, it's Carl Nias. I grew up in northern Minnesota in a small town called Eveleth. It's up on the Iron Range. I graduated a really small class, about 60 kids. And I'm a double major in business administration and marketing. And some things about me is I really love the outdoors. I love traveling, hunting, fishing, four-wheeling, anything to do with being outside. And I really value the time I get to spend with my family. Cool story, I've actually been traveling since about the second week of the semester. I drove southwest across the United States through Colorado out to California. And then I headed east across the southern states. And I've made it to New Mexico so far, and I've been here for the last couple weeks. Hence why I'm doing my presentation in my car. I found it a bit more suiting than my tent. So we're going to go on to some lessons that I've learned. The most important is ethics comes into play every time you're making a decision that involves more than just yourself. And when you look closely at decisions that you make, almost every decision that you make involves more than just yourself. And it's important to realize that. And so there's actually a process in which ethical views are voiced, and that can be the government can write laws to determine what's right and wrong and the consequences for those right and wrongs, and that would be determining ethical versus non-ethical decisions. And then inside institutions, managers tend to determine those ethical actions as well. So the manager will decide what course they're going to take through different events, and that boils down to the individual level where people are faced with making their own ethical decisions, and that can actually go all the way back up to the top from the individual level. And that would be, if your manager tells you to do something that you find unethical, you can voice your opinions, or you can file a complaint, or you could choose to quit the organization and try and find a new job where maybe your views are met more closely. And the government is also being lobbied by people who believe in their own ethical views, and they want to make sure that the things that they are able to do that they find ethical or non-ethical be portrayed by the government in said writing laws. So in organizations, organizational cultures are a large part of ethics. So there's a lot of problems whether it go from gender, age, or even race, and those issues are very, very frequently found in organizations and have been for a very long time, much like the gender pay gap, or the very difficult task of reaching the top of a pay ladder as an African American, where the majority of promotions are given to white males. So those are all ethical problems that we are slowly working on, and they're good things to realize that not everything is perfect, but there is a process, and that process is slowly on its way. And so companies also develop codes of ethics to show their beliefs to employees and people in the community. And I never knew this, but you can actually find most companies' codes of ethics, and it's basically a statement saying how they expect their employees and them as a company to treat other people and other companies. And it states the way that they intend to act, and it's almost like a mission statement in a way. And like we talked about with the organizational cultures, sexual harassment has been long been an ethical issue, and that's really important to notice and to look for solutions for, especially when women are stating that they don't feel comfortable in the workplace. And the final thing is focusing on ethical practices shows great value in the organization with your employees, but also outside the organization in your community and your customers. And we're actually going to touch on that in the case study. So the case study I found was the Starbucks racial arrest in 2018 out in Pennsylvania. And what happened was two African American fellows were waiting to meet a business colleague in Starbucks, and they hadn't ordered anything, and the manager asked them to leave if they weren't going to order anything, and they just stated that they were waiting to meet a colleague. And the manager, after realizing they weren't going to leave, decided to call the police. And when the police arrived, the whole altercation was recorded by a white female who also hadn't ordered anything and had been just using the Starbucks as a location to finish some of her work. And so the two men were eventually arrested and taken away. And the video that the woman took, who also hadn't ordered anything, went viral pretty quickly. And the CEO, Kevin Johnson, stood in immediately and addressed the issue that occurred with the Starbucks manager and the two African American fellows. So the first thing that he did was apologize for the manager's actions, and then he actually took responsibility, stating that the company should do a better job of training their managers and making sure that people are aware of how to handle situations like these. And they actually restructured their training to ensure that things like this wouldn't happen in the future. And the manager was actually removed from the location, and the current managers at all Starbucks locations had to take more enhanced training courses throughout the next couple of years to ensure that they were fully trained on situations like this. Now, where this really ties in with the lessons that we learn is actually that ethics is so important, because Starbucks was protested for their poor actions, and they lost a lot of business. And then after addressing the issue and choosing the proper ethical solution, Starbucks actually saw a positive change in the way that they were viewed by the community after the CEO had come out and after they took their steps to solve their issue. And that public outlook improving really helped the company as far as increasing customer base and making sure that those customers who for a while weren't going to Starbucks because of this issue did eventually come back. And that really comes into how important ethics really is.